chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended podcast, and the founder of the Blended Pledge. And I am so excited to be here with you today. I've got Sachin. He is the Chief Supply Chain Officer over at Elida Beauty here, and he's going to be giving us a market update. We're going to be talking about some of his leadership styles and so much more. We've got drone delivery on par for today. And then we're also going to be talking about tariffs. I know everybody's probably tired of tariffs, but don't worry. We've got a little bit of a different spin on it to get you talking today. But first, we couldn't have this show without our show sponsor, and that is the Secret Society of Supply Chain. So head over to secretsocietyofsupplychain.com. Get your free membership today because we've got a lot of great things going on in that community. We've got Women in Supply Chain Connections group and some stuff for marketing professionals in supply chain as well. So head over there. But first, let's talk a little bit about what's happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain. So we've got a brand new episode of Women in Supply Chain, and we release a Women in Supply Chain episode once a month, and usually about the middle of the month. And we talk about women's journeys in the industry. We focus and feature one woman a month on the podcast and one on the blog. And we talk about their journey, what that's looked like, advice that they have for other leaders in the industry, other women in the industry, and we love doing it. So if you haven't heard this month's episode, head over to letstalksupplychain.com, wherever you listen to the podcast, maybe YouTube as well, to check out the newest episode with Beverly Steele. Tomorrow, I am going live at 11:30 a.m. Eastern for an episode of On the Margins with MVK. Now, let me tell you, this is going to be a fascinating one. And if you have not clicked the attend button, go and click the attend button, because we are talking to WestJet. And we're talking about the VP of Supply Chain and Procurement. And she's going to be sharing some really, really cool stories around how they have to source things like jet fuel and so much more. So make sure that you tune in for that tomorrow morning at 11:30. And then on Friday, Eric Johnson is going live for 10 a.m. Eastern for TPM Today. And he's talking about staying ahead of trade shifts, why multi-tier visibility matters. Yes, we're still talking about visibility. We probably haven't cracked the code on that yet, but Eric is going to try on Friday. So click the attend button, even if you can't attend live, and we will send you the recording afterwards. Plus, next week, April 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern, I am going to be hosting a webinar with BlackBerry Radar, and we're going to be talking about how data-driven decisions are transforming asset utilization. We've put the link in the comments for you. If you're on my personal LinkedIn, I will do that after the show. Make sure to register. We've got a really cool conversation coming up for you with Palletized Trucking and also BlackBerry Radar. Next, I don't know if you guys saw this, but last week, April 16th, we celebrated 7 years for Let's Talk Supply Chain, and we couldn't have done it without any of you, without my team. So we did a couple of posts about it, started the Two Babes Talk Supply Chain podcast in 2016, but renamed it in 2018 to Let's Talk Supply Chain, and it's been quite an awesome journey. And we're really only getting started. So stick with us because we've got a lot coming up. All right, now it's time to bring up our guest for today. Hello, Sachin. How are you?
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to those who are listening from around the world. Fantastic opportunity for me from Sarah here to present or talk through some of the important aspects of supply chain that each one of us are trying to manage and navigate in this very volatile and uncertain world. Good to be
Yes.
here.
I'm so excited that you are here. Now, you and I first met at Manifest a little bit earlier on this year, and you reached out to me and you said, "Do you have some time?" I was like, "Absolutely." And so we had a chance to meet and sort of talk about the things that you're passionate about, what you're doing with your team. And we wanted to come together and sort of showcase that on Thoughts and Coffee. So I'm so glad that you're here. Thanks so much for joining us. For anybody who doesn't know who you are, why don't you tell them who you are and what you do?
I'll do that. Before that, big thank you to you and your team for hosting me and giving this opportunity. Um, Hello, everyone. I'm Sachin Mariguddi. I look after the supply chain for Elida Beauty as a company, which currently does a lot of beauty and well-being products, marketing and sales in and around the world across 130 countries. And we are based out of Dallas as the headquarters for North America. And super excited to be here to talk through some of the interesting themes that Sarah has brought out on drones, on technology, innovation, and I'll be also touching base on typical innovation cycle, how people focus on product and services, and there's opportunity to think about business model innovation in the continuum of
Yes.
explore and exploit.
Yes, there's so much to talk about. I mean, you must be a busy guy with all the uncertainty and all the stuff being thrown at you, but you've got a big team, so I'm sure they are also keeping you busy as well. All right, so we're going to get to a poll, our poll of the week. We ask you guys a question every single Wednesday morning, and so I want to highlight that and sort of get Sachin's thoughts on this. So the question that we asked, what strategy are you focusing on in 2025 to improve your supply chain? Now, obviously, we only have 4 slots, so we can't choose all sorts of different options for you to choose from. So we picked 4. And we had a split down the middle. 39% of you said AI driven forecasting and balancing just in time and buffer stock, with 22% of you coming up with prioritizing SKUs, and 0% said zero based exercises. Sachin, where do you sit on this? What did you think about it? Was it surprising? What are you focusing on?
Not surprising at all to see all the options and the split in the middle, because everybody's focusing on it is a multi-prong, multi-lever world requiring multiple strategies to be deployed to achieve some of the business results. And I think cash, which is currently represented here by balancing JIT or just in time and buffer stock, is one of the aspect that is keeping everybody busy. How do we manage cash when things are volatile, when tariffs have kicked in and cash requirements have changed? Same way, AI is here to stay, and everybody's embraced AI trend, and trying to see what are the use cases, where can they be deployed, and how do we drive the value. Essentially, for Elida Beauty, our supply chain focus is how do we maximize value and give a continued competitive advantage to our company by not only limiting the cash exposure, but driving the profit margins every day, every week, every month, so that we are able to reinvest that and reinvent some of the Easter year brands that we've got. We've got 100-year-old brands, we've got 50-year-old brands, we've got 10-year-old brands, and across these brands, because these are multi-decadal brands, they do have ability to reinvest and reinvent themselves with changing market dynamics.
Amazing. And I just want to give a shout out to Susan and Davin over on my personal LinkedIn. Thanks so much for joining us. If any of you have any questions for Sachin or about this conversation, make sure to put it in the comments. We will try to get to it before the end of the show. And if you're liking the show, make sure to put an emoji in the comments as well. We want to give you a shout out on screen too. So now is the part of the episode where I ask about a market update, because everybody's perspective of supply chain, what they're working on, what it means to them, what's keeping them up at night, is very, very different across the board. And so I love hearing about what you're thinking about, what you're implementing. What are you talking to other chief supply chain officers about? So Sachin, let's take this time and really dive into a bit of a market update. So share with us sort of what's on your mind, what's going on, what kind of conversations are you having right now?
Sure. I think current theme or the theme that has been there for some time is what's happening to world in general.
Yeah.
Are we going to continue to be on the globalization trend, or are we going to be more into localization trend? Is it nearshoring? Is it offshoring? Is it onshoring? What's the real balance of equation to continually help supply chains, help businesses to thrive in this uncertain and volatile world? I think as supply chain officers, we are much more rooted into finding continued resilient value equations for our
Okay.
supply chains, where uh, while onshoring does have its own benefits, but equally you also need to then balance that transition while retaining profitability of the company. So how do you balance all the changing dynamics in this world where baseline is globalized world and new baselines are emerging, where you either have an equation of onshoring, nearshoring, or portion of each, onshoring, offshoring, nearshoring, and drive value for your consumers, customers, and shareholders.
Well, and I think it's a matter of where you want to spend your risk dollars. I talk about this all the time. I use this term risk dollars because really, where do you want to spend it? What does that look like for you? And risk tolerance, just like it does for us personally in our own finances, it looks different for every business. And so I think the conversation and the question is, where do I want to spend my risk dollars? Is that how you're thinking about it? Is that the conversations that you're having?
Indeed, I think you coined it quite beautifully. It's risk dollars that plays a big role. For us, it's an opportunity. We look at it as an opportunity every time there's a change, because we operate in a
Mm.
globalized environment and our supply chains are very complex with manufacturing spread around the world. Uh, we always try to see what's my lead time to switch from point A solution to point B solution in supply chain while balancing the cash requirement. And we've come up with a model where we are able to switch it in less than 3 weeks time. So
Wow.
anything that changes in market dynamic, we are able to reaccommodate and repivot. Of course, it comes with certain degree of partnerships with all our partners across the spectrum, and the contracting and the flexibility that we've built with our partners is our competitive advantage in a way.
Well, and one of the things I want to point out there is that a lot of times we get stuck in, oh my goodness, this is happening to us. Oh, this is such a big sort of ship, pardon the pun, to move around and change. It doesn't happen overnight that we're going to change manufacturing from overseas to a localized manufacturing process. But one of the words that you used is opportunity. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes we want to make sure that we focus on what is that opportunity out of the chaos, right? Out of the uncertainty. What's the opportunity that this brings us to be able to think differently and provide a culture of innovation? Maybe find some other revenues, right? Some growth for the organization. And we're going to be talking about that leadership style. And I think that it's a really important conversation for us to have right now, especially as we're dealing with so much uncertainty and chaos, in how we think about business growth and how we foster innovation to be able to come up with new business ideas.
Indeed. Um, I think, in today's world, if you're just singularly focused on what you're trying to do with your current set of products and services, I think you're missing out on the bigger spectrum. Um, Business models are evolving. If you can also focus on business model innovation, let's say you're doing a normal traditional delivery, could you look at different types of delivery mechanisms? Could you look at uh, making it as a service instead of a product? Could you look at converting service into a product? Could you look at multiple avenues of revenue, as Sarah was calling out, on each of the things that your business is doing as part of default business process? Because there are multiple business processes that we run as a business. We generally focus only on one singular aspect for which we are known for. We don't look at what all differently we are doing through our business processes for that brand. Could that process be applied to somebody else? Could that be an advantage that can be used by others. If you look at
Mhm.
Amazon, what
Yeah.
Amazon does is exactly same thing. They build a new process and that becomes a business model. Could we be looking at ourselves and see what kind of Amazon SKU skills and competencies we have as a business, which could be beneficial for multiple businesses that are out there? So I
Yeah.
think it's not just B2C and B2B, it's a combination of B2B, B2C for growth, innovation, and making shareholders happy.
I love that. Now, talking about changing how we think about a business process, this takes us into our first article. Now, I grabbed this article because I think it's fascinating, and I think it's something that all supply chain leaders, supply chain professionals should read about. Not necessarily that everybody's going to go into drone logistics, but this is a very interesting case study on how they have used in India for the healthcare industry, as well as Kenya, actually, drone logistics to be able to deliver life or death medication to remote places, but also how they're using it to deliver a lot faster and cheaper. Some of the examples that they've used in this is that the drones can go 12 kilometers in 20 minutes, and by car, it would take an hour, right? Just something to think about. But they also talked about how you have to think about capital and operating costs when it comes to drones and things like that. So, Sachin, before I go into any more details, what did you think about this particular article? Is it something that has been in your purview? Are you thinking about sort of drones, or did this sort of open up an avenue for you?
Indeed, it opened up an avenue for me. And currently, if you look at drone as a technology, it's at a maturity curve where it is adoption is increasing very strongly, and regulations are also improving and changing along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Number one impediment to growth of drones was aviation regulations, and now as it has taken a wider adoption, it is kind of much more becoming common stay, and there are companies where they offer drone services versus there are companies which are buying drones and experimenting with drones. This article does highlight a human aspect of how do we help and serve society using the latest technology of drones in healthcare, where if serving remote individuals and families will always be a challenge to take doctors into the such remote places in emergency cases. How can we use drones? How can we use some of the technologies by delivering and administrating the medicinal use in those remote areas has been highlighted, and it's quite fascinating. And I think similar experiments are happening here in US as well. Where I live here in Dallas, Frisco, Walmart has piloted drone deliveries, and if you have a Walmart Plus subscription, in 6th minute you
What?
have your delivery. And if you are currently, let's say you are thinking about that, can I have maybe a particular brand of beer as you're watching a game or two, you don't have to worry much. You just click it in 6 minutes before a goal happens or before some new strategy changes, you will have your beer delivered. And that's the fun part of drones kind of bringing experience and joy to our world.
I would be so interested to actually see that delivery to the door, because if it's beer, hopefully it's in a can. But if it's in a bottle, I'm just wondering how that actually works. But 6 minutes is fascinating. Now, one of the things that I wanted to highlight from this article is that they actually put together a cost benefit analysis of long range drones versus traditional delivery. So they not only give a case study, but they also give a framework to see so that you can evaluate and see if drone deliveries is right for your organization. They also give this cost benefit analysis, and they talk about how drones can actually do 6 deliveries an hour versus, I think it was, I can't see it here, but I think it was like 10 in a day or something like that through driving. So I just want to throw some attention to the link that we're putting into the chat right now. And then I will be updating my personal LinkedIn after the show with this link. Go and check it out. I mean, if you haven't thought about it, maybe you've thought about it, but you weren't entirely sure how to do the framework, how to analyze, how to evaluate whether it's the right thing for you. This is a great article for you to be able to do that. All right, let's talk about our next article. So, this one is more about leadership. This one is about the explore, exploit continuum. And it says that, we as supply chain professionals, we obviously live in the uncertainty continuum. But in the uncertainty continuum, we still need to foster and build a culture of opportunity and exploring new business ideas. So, Sachin, talk to me about this particular article. Why were you drawn to it? Is this a particular leadership style that you use for your team?
Indeed, this is my go-to principle towards life, toward professional problem solving, because in real world you can't just be focused on what you got. You have to always explore and search for new opportunities while you are winning in the marketplace or you are winning in your life, because win doesn't last long. uh, Journey of excellence is a endless journey. Every time you have to find new true north star, and then keep chasing that goal while creating another goal. And that's the explore and exploit continuum, where external forces will keep impacting your journey, but they become opportunity should you consider them and should you explore them more, and pivot and create teams, create enabling culture to make that as an opportunity for your organization or the goals that you are chasing. Because journeys are never linear. This is a non-linear world where benefits also can be non-linear. In real world, every time people are so used to thinking 1 plus 1 plus 1,
Mm-hmm.
there are opportunities, and today's technologies are offering those opportunities where you can convert 1 into 100 into 100,000, and 100,000 into a million very quickly. Look at any startups that are growing. Look at any growth stories, success stories. Everything is non-linear. The time it used to take to reach 1 million audience has shrunk so much that you can be a millionaire in terms of followership in less than a month.
Right.
So those are the non-linear outcomes that exist should you choose to explore while you are exploiting what you got.
Yeah, and that's such a great explanation of this particular article. It's a short article, but I would highly recommend to go and check it out, especially if you're leading a supply chain team through uncertainty right now. They say that the success of any organization is really around exploring new opportunities for growth. So if you can culture an environment and a culture for your team where they feel comfortable coming to the table and talking about radical ideas, right? Some crazy ideas that they're sort of throwing out there and they feel safe to do that for you to explore, right? It doesn't mean that they're going to work out. It doesn't mean that you're going to implement them necessarily. It just means that there's a safe space to be able to throw something out at the wall to see if it sticks, and for everybody to sort of pull it apart or ask questions or things like that to see if it really is a new opportunity for growth. And I think as we move through the uncertainty, we have to think about the positivity around what is coming out of this for us. We need to push the boundaries of how we're thinking about the solutions and how we have solved for the challenges previously, but how we want to solve for them now. How can we think about it differently? But one of the challenges in this leadership style is to bring strong exploration plus the exploit culture, but bring it simultaneously and find a balance between the two so that you can move the business forward successfully. Was there anything else that you wanted to note on this? I just thought this was fascinating.
No, I think you kind of summarized it quite nicely. It is always difficult balance to do explore and exploit together, but that's there lies the success. How do you do same thing simultaneously and enable that environment of experimentation while chasing the efficiency and effectiveness of what you got? A lot of times focus always is on efficiency and effectiveness of existing,
Right.
not much focus there on explore. And how do you create that niche within your organization to be able to do that and encourage the experimentation on the edges every day, every week.
Yeah, it's not just about efficiency. Now, I want to go back to that 6-minute mark you said about drones. Davin said 6-minute delivery is insane. I mean, you could order ice cream and it would still be frozen. And I want to say good morning and thanks for tuning in to Audrey over on my personal. All right, we've got one last article. Now, this one is about tariffs, everybody. I'm just going to give you a warning because if you've heard enough about tariffs, I don't know, you still want to tune in because there is 40 female founders that generate $800 million in revenue that are taking the government on because they want small businesses to be exempt from tariffs. They're saying that small businesses are 43.5% of economic activity here in the US. And they're saying that small business isn't just restaurant and salons, it's some beauty brands. So Sachin, talk to me about this because listen, tariffs aren't just affecting small business. Sure, it might be affecting them the most, but you run, a large organization, a large supply chain, and I'm sure this is affecting you in some ways as well. And I think it's fair to really take a look at how it's affecting everybody. So talk to us about how you're thinking about tariffs, how it's affecting you. Yeah.
I think the surprise element of it is where there is a risk and opportunity. Everybody kind of took it with a bit of a shock, like, hey, what's really happening here? Because new administration, as it was explaining changes, everybody was trying to reassess what all optionality one has in order to continue to be in business first and then thrive. Because most oftentimes, smaller businesses, medium-sized businesses generally have disproportionate impact with such a radical change. And at times, what I have seen is if you can hold on to your current strength for 3 months or 3 to 6 months, this can turn into a biggest opportunity for that enterprise. So for us, what we have looked at is, and not only with this tariff as a change, global market regulations are changing every day. So tariff is one such aspect of global regulation. If you look at beauty and well-being products that we operate in, every country, every continent is coming up with their own regulations. So we are building and we have built that muscle internally on assessing and pivoting our supply chains and our business models on a every 3 months basis. And my encouragement to every other business and supply chain team would be to reassess how modular your supply chain is. What could you do to develop and build more modularity within your supply chain while retaining certain cost and pricing matrices? Because essentially we are in business of delivering value, and while delivering value, you always have to have contingency built into what value offering you are creating, and that contingency is where the modularity comes in. So for us, it's all down to how do we use that risk dollar or contingency to drive the different model of modularity and get the same outcome or even better outcome.
Yeah, and I think the other opportunity, so well said, by the way, but I think the other opportunity too is other lines of revenue. So like you said, if you can maintain it for 3 months or 3 to 6 months, let's say, but you can find some opportunity maybe in some other lines of revenue to be able to support that for now. That's actually one of the opportunities that they talk about in this particular article, is that one of them is, looking at other lines of revenue, taking a look at service, not necessarily product for the short term. It could be for the long term too, if it works out, obviously. But just to give everybody an idea when it comes to the tariffs, right? So a toy could cost $2.50 plus the 104% tariff takes it up to $4.84. Now, usually if that toy is selling for $10, let's say, you would sell it at wholesale for $5. So now with that tariff, it makes it very difficult to be able to wholesale. So we also might see a change there as well, in the fact that they might not be able to wholesale and they may want to go direct to consumer, which is another opportunity, right? It may take a little bit more marketing dollars and marketing savviness, but they might want to pivot and be able to do that. So in saying that, we have come to the end of the show. Sachin, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing so many great insights. If you liked the show and if you want to share it, please share it. You can share it from YouTube. You can share it from LinkedIn. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this particular episode. Thank you so much to everybody who weighed in today and gave us a shout out in the comments. We will see you back here next week. Sachin, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Sarah, for the opportunity, and I'm glad that we are able to talk through the recent themes that are impacting most of the businesses. Look forward to saying hello again at some newer venue and staying in touch. And don't hesitate, anybody who's listening in online or offline, don't hesitate to reach out for any questions or happy to chime in with my thoughts, which may or may not be applicable in your circumstance, but it might be a lending. I might end up lending an idea or two to you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.